Hello and welcome to the classic Hollywood movie you should know. I'm Nate Washburn. This week's movie is coming out on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, Election Day. Please, everyone, go out and vote. Exercise your civic rights and vote. Make your voices heard. This election is hugely important. It is like the most important election right now. Please, please vote. And so for Election Day, I wanted to talk about one of my favorite political-themed movies, 1939's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, starring Jimmy Stewart, Jean Arthur, and Claude Rains, directed by Frank Capra. So Mr. Smith Goes to Washington tells the story of Jefferson Smith, played by Jimmy Stewart. He is this young politician, this idealist, and he gets appointed to the U.S. Senate to replace a recently deceased senator because the other senator from the state, Senator Payne, played by Claude Rains, and the political machine, the men working behind the scenes, they think they can make Jeff toe the line, do what they want him to do, and sort of vote how they want him to vote. So Jeff discovers Payne's corruption, and along with Saunders, played by Jean Arthur, she is his assistant / eventual love interest, he fights back and stands up for the little guy, and it leads to this great climax on the floor of the Senate chamber. So the performances in this movie are great. You can't beat Jimmy Stewart as Jefferson Smith. This is one of his most iconic roles. But the one that really I feel like makes this movie is Jean Arthur as Saunders. She is cynical, she's sweet, she's charming, she's a bit of a jerk at times, and yet she has this energy that makes all of her scenes snap. Her bits with a character named Diz, played by Thomas Mitchell, are some of the funniest and some of the best scenes in the entire film. Jean Arthur makes this movie. And I also want to compliment Frank Capra's direction. Now, Capra is one of those directors, you look at his filmography and it's just top to bottom. You can't go wrong watching a Frank Capra movie. And Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is one of his most well-known films. But what doesn't get mentioned a lot is that Capra, he takes some chances with his work. And I've seen this movie so many times. It is one of my all-time favorites. And yet on this most recent watch, I noticed this one scene that just sort of blew me away, where Jeff Smith, he's flirting with Susan Payne, played by an actress named Astrid Allwyn. She is Senator Payne's daughter. She is like the most eligible bachelorette in all of Washington. All the young guys have their eyes on her. She's talking to Jeff, asking him how everything's going, how he's settling in. The entire scene, you do not see Jeff's face or Susan's face. Capra keeps the camera trained on Jeff's hands and his hat. He keeps dropping his hat on the floor because he's nervous. He's talking to Susan, this beautiful woman who he's smitten with. And it's a bold choice, just focusing on the hat versus giving close-ups to Jimmy Stewart and Astrid Allwyn. So Mr. Smith Goes to Washington was a big hit. Again, it came out in 1939, which gets listed oftentimes as one of the greatest years in Hollywood history. The top grossing film was Gone with the Wind, which was one of the top grossing films ever, but the second highest grossing film of that year was Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It got nominated for 11 Oscars. It only won one for Best Original Story, but this thing was massive. It's now lauded as one of the greatest American films ever made. It has a 96% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It is number 26 on the AFI Top 100 list from 2007, and yet at the time when it came out, politicians who now love to say that they're Mr. Smith, they're this incorruptible, honest, fighting for the little guy politician, but at the time didn't like this movie because they said it made them look like they were all corrupt. And also reporters didn't really like this movie either because they said this film makes them all look like drunks. So a little bit of trivia for you. In the scene where Jeff Smith enters the Senate chamber for the first time, he gets led to his seat by a page, and the boy tells him sort of where everybody's sitting, who's in the galleries, what he needs to know. At the end of the scene, Jeff asks him his name, and he says his name is Richard Jones. Now that is the actor's actual name, and for all you Disney buffs out there, I'm a huge fan of Disney myself, Dickie Jones was the voice of Pinocchio. That is Pinocchio talking to Jeff Smith right there in the Senate chamber. So on this election day, do yourself a favor, go out and vote, exercise your civic duty. It's so important right now that we all vote and change DC for the better. And then come home and give a watch to Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's a great film, one of my favorites, about an honest politician, go figure. Give it a watch. It's this week's classic Hollywood movie you should know. I'm Nate Washburn. Keep watching.